What's up, my brothers and sisters? Welcome to the Fireground Fitness Podcast, where we talk about all things pertaining to life on and off the fireground. The views and the opinions expressed are those of your host and our guest. Today we sit down with Max Bush. He's a former Navy SEAL, and we talk about performance under pressure, the hidden cost of service, and how real strength comes from mastering yourself, not just enduring hardship. So if you want to become sharper on the fireground, sharper on the line, you want to be stronger at home, etc., and better overall, this episode's for you. Enjoy. Hey, Max, thank you so much for sitting down with me, man, and having this conversation. I want to talk about your pipeline through SEALs and the things that you've learned in that experience. I want to talk about what you're doing with sharp performance and how that is helping, shape the minds of first responders and help them better process the things that we see, do, feel, experience, and that cause us profound dysregulation in our lives.
That's right.
So I want to talk about that. So tell me a little bit about yourself, man. What prompted you to get in the teams and go down that pipeline?
No, thank you. Thanks for having me to be here. So I grew up in Northern Illinois, little tiny town, a couple thousand people. My grandpa was the fire chief. We, referred to him as Papa Chief, and just have a huge love for the fire community. I spent a ton of time in the firehouse growing up.
Is it a volunteer house?
It became right at the end of his career. When he died, the new fire chief took it into becoming a fully staffed a house. But I have the memories of hearing Grandpa stop down the hallway at 2 a.m. to go respond to a barn fire. And it was that way throughout his career.
That's cool.
Yeah. I grew up in that place and was an athlete. I was a pretty good football player, played a little college football. But just kind of always felt like there was something missing. I wasn't like the other kids in a lot of ways. I always felt like I was meant to do something different. And I had 3 generations of Navy guys. None of them were SEALs, but my grandpa was in the Navy, my dad was in the Navy, my brother, a bunch of his brothers were in the Navy. And then at some point, I kind of took a look at myself and said, it's time to do something hard. I need to live up to something.
Were you already out of high school at that point, or was that kind of like as you were coming to that?
No, I was out. Honestly, what I tell people is that, my failures is what led me to the things that, made me successful. I was a highly recruited, football player, but my GPA was so bad. I graduated high school with like a 2.1. So I watched, 25 Division I offers go down the crapper in one day. I ended up playing for a Division II school in Minnesota called Winona State.
It's so fascinating how, and it's so simple to say this, but how our decisions have consequences.
Yeah.
Right? I chose to goof off in school, therefore my GPA is going to be low. And I'm not at the time. You don't realize, you can't forecast that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you go, well, wait, hold on, this GPA matters? Hold on. I'm a football player. Don't you know who I am?
Yeah. But I think it's, I believe in energy powers, and I think that's just what I was supposed to do. I think that those decisions were all positive influences in my life. I think one of the things that makes a good SEAL are the hardships you go through. The guy who is the superstar athlete with the perfect grades, with the great family and all the things, they're the first to quit. They've never really felt adversity, and the training is designed to make you feel adversity constantly, to judge yourself and whether you're good enough, whether you're hard enough, whether you deserve to be here. And, all of these little misfits who you wouldn't necessarily would be the right guys, they've put up with a lot of shit in their lives, and they go, you know what,
they've got the coping mechanisms.
This is just another day. Let's go.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of guys talk about the physical component, but the most important part is the psychological component.
Right.
If you let them get into your head, right, then it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, it's a physical world, but I was in the back half of every run. I was in the back half of every swim. I middle of the pack for O-course times. We can get into what all that stuff means, but I was never a top performer in buds or in training ever. but I was resilient as hell. And, you know, there were guys who ran laps around me, could out physical fitness me in every way, you know, stud athletes who, you know, as soon as things got a little bit hairy, they're out of there, you know.
Yeah, interesting. Well, and I think about, I mean, the core mission requires somebody who can be resilient. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to carry heavy loads, have to stay up late at night. You know, I was kind of laughing to myself last night when you came in and you didn't have a hotel room and you're like, hey, I'll figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, well, you can sleep on a bench outside. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Right. And I used to, it was a badge of honor for me. I'm like, I could sleep anywhere. Yeah. Right. Sleep in the dirt. Like, you need me to curl up on the corner of the room over here? Yeah, no problem. Just build some toughness, you know, because, yeah, you're not going to make me uncomfortable fucking sleeping somewhere. That's easy.
I'm a Sally now, man. I'm the guy who spends $10,000 on a bed and the cooling sheets, you know, and we can talk about that too, you know, sleep health. Oh my God. If there's something that I can take from my lessons learned with some of the sleep specialists I've gotten to work with, leaving the teams, and how that affects your brain function, your ability to make decisions, the longevity of your life, you know, your ability to stay calm. I used to pride myself that I could train all day long, drink Coors Lights all night, wake up,
do it again
3 hours later, be training and such a foolish mindset. Truly a foolish mindset to think that means that you're hard or resilient. It means that you're in a lot of ways you're being stupid. you need to take a new approach.
That wisdom is wasted on the young, right? Because you're so capable, and this is an important, I think, lesson, right? Is when we're younger, we're so resilient, physically resilient to some of those difficulties, and our bodies just bounce back from everything, right? And so we take for granted that, and then you get a small injury, you get a little bit older, you know, all those things start to compound, and all the lack of sleep becomes a problem, right? So yeah, I used to, you know, for me, I get joking about being able to sleep anywhere, but now I'm like, no, I need to go to bed early. I'm not fighting to stay awake and, you know, bragging about how little sleep I got.
What I want people to do is I want you to look at the greatest of all time. We have to stop comparing ourselves to mediocrity and saying, you know what, self-mastery is this thing that's designed for the top 1%. I want you to look at what the best of breed did. And let's just look at sleep. Michael Jordan, prolific napper, was not a guy early into his career who was going to be the all-nighter. He took it incredibly serious. Tom Brady, same way. The new athletes like J.J. McCarthy, every Olympic gold athlete who's won gold in the past 2 Olympics accredits their success to taking a break and saying, you know what, overtraining isn't the way, oversleeping is, over-worrying about self-mastery in terms of my nutrition, my relationship health, my family health. This is the piece that we're missing right now, is that if we can't truly try to master ourselves, I call it the dead space of time, right? It's from the time you get off work to the time you put your head down to the pillow. It's the time you wake up and the time you show up to work. Work has a bunch of uncontrollables. You're never going to control how many calls you go on or how much you can sleep. Yeah. You got to learn how to master that dead space of time in your life, and then everything else will have a massively positive influence on your overall performance.
Oh, yeah. Well, so answer me this. When we talk about this training pipeline that you experienced, and part of that training pipeline is built with sleep deprivation, built right into it, right, on purpose. And then, you know, you go through the whole training pipeline. And outside of BUD/S, what's that training pipeline look like when it comes to the stress inoculation component? Is it still...
It gets much higher.
Yeah. So and how long is that total pipeline? About 2 years?
A little under, yeah. From the time you start boot camp to the time you graduate SEAL qualification training, you know, 80% of you will never go all the way through. Yeah. You do what's called getting rolled. You get injured, you fail something, and they give you one more chance, and you roll back. And so yeah, 2 years is close.
Okay. So I only bring up 2 years as kind of this window of time where it's all about just hammering. And so how do you try, like, that becomes the way, right? The obstacle is the way, and we're
Right.
fucking rising to that occasion. And it's just sort of this. It's wrapped up also with the warrior ethos, right? Like this is who we are, and so that hard charging, never say no, fucking attitude carries into our time off, right? Liberty time becomes that aggressive playtime as well, and so we build that into the culture, and that becomes the way it is, right?
Right.
So how do we? I guess the question I think is, with the teams, like, are they, now that they have some enlightenment, right, and some new knowledge, are they beginning to change any of that? Because how does that affect the pipeline?
Oh yeah.
And how does that, how do they transition out of that into kind of, into the teams where they're applying it, on like we're operational readiness and maintaining op tempo, but also getting rest, and how do they do that?
It's what you're talking about is a culture problem, and culture is owned by, what they say in policing, culture is created by the sergeants, in firefighting, culture is created by the firefighters, right? What I can say about that is this: it's getting better and better. The greatest SEALs who ever existed in terms of mental and physical health exist right now. It's a tough path because you're right. Like, we need to put people through these tests to see what sort of resilience they are, but then we need to retrain and re-embrace these new kind of operational mindsets and methodology, ideology about how we take care of ourselves. And it takes a really, really strong mental person to say, okay, I know you just went through hell. I know that these are your expectations coming in. Now here are those new set of expectations, which I want you to treat yourself like a professional athlete and not like this disposable asset. Because, I'm all for staying out all night with the boys and drinking and have a good time. I think that's a necessity. That's something that goes back to our most ancient warriors. We are supposed to live and play and cry together, before and after any sort of operational environment. And that should never go away. But the majority of the time needs to be about self-mastery. It needs to be about, if I give myself, a better nutrition, a better mindset, a better sleep, a better relationship with my wife, and if I can change these things culturally, will the operation go better? Will I have a higher volume of mentally healthy people who are willing to stay in the job longer? Because hiring takes a lot of money. Training takes a lot of money. You have an entire generation of GWAT veterans that have all of these lessons that were written in blood, and 80% of them got out of service before they had an opportunity to share that information with the next generation. And that's where we continue to make these generational mistakes of like, man, I feel like we should be a lot further along than we are right now. Why is the suicide rate so high? Why is the divorce rate so high? Why do so many guys have the exact same injury? When we have all these wonderful tools, right? It's about taking control of your own team environment and not saying, let some administration, let some therapist decide what's right for me. No.
Well, and I said this before we hit record, right? The administration can't care more than you do.
That's right.
About your own health and wellness, and about the team, right? Like, the members of the team have to care about each other and be looking out for each other. And we, I think in all of these communities, we have a pretty significant, I'll call it a shame culture, right? We like to shame each other for stuff, and which is fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun.
Shame.
But at the same time, how are we, it becomes, we're not shaming for the right things, right? We need to be telling guys, hey, it's all well good to make fun and have a good time, but you need to be taking care of yourself.
Right.
Just like we're like, hey, you can't be all fat and out of shape. That's not okay. And your brain can't be out of shape either. Right. The space between your ears has to be taken care of. So hold on. Okay. So let me back up just a little bit. So you didn't start the teams with this in mind, right? So you were in the teams, I think you told me 11 years. Mm-hmm. And so, what transpired for you that caused you to kind of go down this path?
Yeah, I was falling apart. I'm not a part of that Ramadi, Fallujah, Hindu Kush mountain generation. Like, I was never in this high op tempo environment. Right, I had my fun. I did the Iraq thing and got to see action in Southeast Asia and training commands and whatever. And the reason why I say that is that we get so obsessed with this mindset that like, I had to have been on 300 ops back to back during the heaviest time in order to feel this way. And guys, the shame culture is I'm not allowed to feel this way because I didn't do A, B, or C.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is about an accumulation. It's about your childhood. It's about what led you up to the point of joining the teams. It's about your experiences or injuries that you sustained over that time. We are not the same, right? There are guys who have had 10 times the volume of combat as me who are doing much better than me. And there are guys who have had 10 times less combat than me that are doing much, much worse. And we have to stop labeling ourselves as what we deserve to be like or feel like based on the experiences that we've had doing the job. So for me, I early on in my career, I was in a training accident where a door got blown in and I was inside of there and I got a bad concussion. And that's where the changes really started to happen with my memory, with my temperament, with my endocrine testosterone production. I had a very low testosterone very early in my career. I got hooked on amphetamines, Vyvanse and Adderall because I was so foggy all the time. And then I hurt my back really badly in a skydiving. I got in a bad landing and skydiving. I didn't crash per se. It was a downwind landing, and I tumbled. Yeah, it was a crash. Head over heels and fractured my L1. And it was an accumulation of all these stressors in my life, that led to my mental breakdown where I just feel like I couldn't do the job anymore. I couldn't do life anymore.
Yeah.
Seeing friends become alcoholics, seeing friends kill themselves, losing friends in war.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit of everything, I had to stop and say, what are we doing here?
Yeah. It's interesting. I was, 20 some years into my career, maybe it was like 19 years into my career. And one day we had a kind of a busy night. I was battalion chief, and we had this just kind of a busy night, and dealt with some pediatric fatalities, and I was dealing with the crew who had dealt with the fatalities. And I'm driving home and not thinking much about it, and all of a sudden I just got flooded with emotion. And then as I'm driving, I'm like, oh, I saw this here and throughout the city as I'm working my way home. And next thing you know, I'm fucking bawling. And I was like, holy shit, I'm losing my shit. What is happening right now? Yeah. And I come home and I tell my wife, I said, man, you're not going to believe what happened to me today. And I tell her the whole story, and she goes, oh, no. That makes perfect sense, honey. You've been traumatized for years. Yeah. Not to mention your childhood, which is its own problem. Yeah. And she goes, but yeah, of course, you need therapy. And I was like, nah. Nah. And so I put it off for a few years, and then finally went and had, started doing therapy. And I'm like, oh, this is transformative. Like, I couldn't quite, I knew that there's experiences that we're having that are traumatic. But to your point, I'm holding that at arm's length. I'm not affected by it. Right. I have all the skills to hold that at bay, and I do. And I was like, I do all the stuff. I go mountain biking, and I have friends outside the job, and I'm doing all these different things. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm doing everything I need to do. But I think processing the trauma is an important part of it too. Offloading it and saying, hey, I saw some shit, and this is a real thing. It affected me, and acknowledging that versus just saying, nope, not a thing. Right. I'm tougher than that. You can't just BTF your way through everything.
It's the warrior's mindset, right? The warrior's mindset is that we need to encapsulate each other and take care of each other. Sheep don't take care of the wolves, right? We're all wolves. We're all lions in this profession. We have to stop looking outside of our organization for the answers. Yeah. The answer lies within the people who are doing the work day in and day out. I want to encourage the top performers at every organization to make it their responsibility to start sharing information master your own process, master yourself, then encourage other people to do the same thing. Make this the new standard of how we take care of ourselves and how we take care of others. We have to stop. I saw it so many times, guys falling apart for one reason or another, and we go, you're done, buddy. Like you're acting. I can't handle it. It makes people so uncomfortable to see people uncomfortable in that way that we don't even know what to do. We shun them. Yeah. We put them out on an island. And the worst thing you can do for a person is separate them from the community where they feel whole. Yeah. The worst thing. All right, take a couple months leave. You're going to sit in your house by yourself with no purpose. Your wife, your kids, everybody's going to be gone during the day. What are you going to do? You're going to drink. You're going to have bad thoughts, and you're going to get further and further away from the whole reason you decided to take a break to begin with. Yeah. Connected to community, connected to family. You got to find people who are going through the same stuff. Yeah. And it's not your responsibility. It's our responsibility to take care of one another. A person who's suffering for whatever reason it is, they got blinders on. They're looking through 2 toilet paper tubes, and they're not able to see where the light is. There's an analogy that I love, and it has to do with doing psychedelics for healing. Because I engaged in some of that when I was leaving the service. Like
what type? Like ayahuasca or something like that?
Yeah, ayahuasca, ibogaine, 5-MeO, DMT, psilocybin, stuff like that. And the facilitator was helping me. She explained it to me like this, but it applies to everything we're talking about. She said, this is what psychedelics do for people. She goes, because the work happens after the actual experience of the drug. The drug's not saving you. She said, you're climbing up a mountain, and there's a whiteout blizzard, right? An absolutely whiteout blizzard, and you're freezing cold, and pretty soon you don't know if you're climbing up, down, or sideways because it's so white out. And that's your life, right? That's the trauma that you've experienced in your life. That's the financial issue. That's the issue with your wife, or whatever it may be. What you don't realize is that the blizzard's only 3 inches thick. It seems like it's endless because it's all you can see. What the psychedelics, what the group therapy, with the psychotherapy, whatever your modality is, the goal is to push your head 3 inches forward in any direction and realize that there's a beautiful day outside. Once you realize that it is not endless, you have 2 choices. You can either continue up or you can continue down. There is no right or wrong answer. The idea is to know is that you're not trapped, that it's not endless, that it's not hopeless, that you have control of the direction that you go from this point out. What coaching does, what all those other training methodologies do, is to give you an awareness of where you are in space and time. What coaching does is it gives you the tools and processes you need to make that trek. What do we need to get better? For most guys, it's as simple as this. Their sleep is garbage. They're consuming way too much nicotine and caffeine, and their nervous system is massively overregulated. If I can take a coach who's a sleep specialist or a nervous system specialist and get that person to change one little aspect of their life, the brain fog goes away. The emotional instability goes away. The reactivity, their inability to have a conversation in a nice, calm way with their wife goes away. And if we can regain some of those things, all of a sudden people are nicer to me. My wife wants to listen to me. It's the people at work are looking at me in a different light. I'm showing up, and cognitively I'm able to function at a higher level. It's making people think I'm a better professional. We didn't need to send you to therapy. We didn't need to put you on a bunch of drugs. We didn't need to send you on a retreat. We just had to focus on that one individual unique thing, and it has a trickle-down effect into the rest of your life. One thing at a time.
Yeah. Right? So a lot of, when we talk about that, it sounds profoundly simple to me, right? Yeah. So I guess the big question is, why is it so hard for everyone to buy into this? And, I know we talk about the professionals that have all this information who come in who are not, what do we call them? Not trusted advocates, the culturally competent. Yeah. So when we talk about these folks who come in, these professionals who are, and I'm throwing up air quotes, right, culturally competent.
Right.
But we're always really resistant and hands off, right? And people don't want mental health assessments, and because they're afraid they're going to get pulled off the line. And so how do we outperform that? Because they clearly need it. We know it's, as far as I'm concerned, we can buy all the best equipment in the world and we can do all the best training in the world, but if we're not taking care of the the mental and physical health of our membership, right, of our communities,
right,
then they're ineffective, or they will become ineffective at some point.
Right.
So how do we outperform that attitude problem?
Yeah. I think it has to do with first, re-identifying what the problem is and saying, right now we're calling everything PTSD. Everything. Firefighters got an issue. We send them to a retreat. We send them to a mental health clinician. And we're hoping that person has enough of a relationship with that particular person or problem that they can truly reach them. The majority of the time what we find is they're just going through the steps. They're told they have to do something, so they do it. And they'll lie just enough to not raise any red flags, and they'll maybe tell just enough truth to get a little bit of relief from that session. And it's really doing nothing. We're spinning our wheels. We believe in a physiology-first approach, and it's something that Dr. Chris Free, a member of our team, wrote a book called Operator Syndrome, is focusing on. The physiological effects of doing this job are having psychological repercussions. You take a brain and body and you put it under enormous amounts of stress. You show it a bunch of awful shit. You're interacting with the worst people on their absolute worst day constantly over and over again, and we become addicted to it. It's that simple. We don't dislike going on calls. We like it. That's where you feel good. You have meaning in that moment. If you're not going on fires, if you're not going on medical calls or whatever, what is your life worth? Right? And that's another big problem. Like, think about this, for example. You take a young SEAL, and your entire self-worth is defined on whether or not you're taking human life. If you're a SEAL who's not going on ops and you're not getting the combat deployment, you feel less than everybody.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, my whole family thinks I'm this fucking Billy badass. All these movies, these TV shows, everybody thinks this thing about me, and I haven't fired my gun in 4 years, And so we get obsessed with the idea of killing. Like, that's a problem all on its own. To take a young, influential mind and get him obsessed with that concept.
But this is your worth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Your worth is defined around that mindset. Yeah. Firefighting, policing, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
What house are you at? How many calls are you doing? How many fires you been on? You ever had a save? And if you don't, I want you to put yourself in an incredibly dangerous or strenuous situation. Sometimes overly dangerous, that's unnecessary, because I'm trying to find meaning in my life here. Right?
Yeah.
There's too much emphasis on that and not enough. You know what you want to do? What we do in the SEAL teams, the truth that most people know is 98% of SEAL teams is training.
Yeah.
We train. We train our asses off, and we're the best in the world at it. We build realistic urban training environments, and we do reps and reps and reps and reps. So that way, the training is harder than the real thing. Never once in my life did I ruck up a mountain, then get in a firefight at the top of the mountain, get chased down for 45 minutes with 75 pounds of weight on, having a heat stroke. To me, that happened in training probably 10 times. In real life, that happened 0 times.
Right.
And one of the things I've identified in the fire and law enforcement community is that there's a very big lack in terms of realistic training and people's enthusiasm to do it, as if it's like, it's not real though, so it's not important. It is the job. The job should be training. The extras is when real shit happens. You're lucky if you get the real stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And how do we change people's minds around to get out of that headspace?
Yeah, it's interesting. We definitely put a value on that on so many levels, right? And it becomes social capital.
Yeah.
Right? If you worked at a quiet house, then you're worth less.
Yeah.
That's an interesting problem. And the other thing too is people are like, oh, that guy doesn't have any experience. Like, well, what exactly is experience? Right? Is it you went on a deployment, or you went on you had X number of firefights, or whatever? Like, that's, you can't base your self-worth around that, because it's outside your control.
Right.
So I think that's part of that. Like, we assign that to our self-worth, and then we start to cannibalize ourselves when we go, that's not happening for me, or I feel insufficient. Right? I can't tell you how many times when I'm like, well, I was like, I served in the Marine Corps. It was during peacetime.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do I have to qualify it?
Downplay.
Yeah, I have to qualify. I'm like, listen, motherfucker, I served in the Marine Corps. Fuck you.
Yeah.
What did you do as a 19-year-old? That's enough. That's enough, man.
You don't have control.
Yes.
You don't have control. You have to look at your controllables, which are training. What we call it is your working space. In the SEAL teams, your working space is everything from your arms to your body. I want you to become the master of your kit. Mm-hmm. If anything happens, blind, eyes blown off, you need to be able to change mags. You need to be able to change batteries. You need to know where your chem suit is. You need to be able to do everything blind and become the master of your kit. Become the master of your working space. Mm-hmm. Focus on those controllables and not on. No one's going to pick how many fires you get to go to. Nobody, maybe the 3 best, highest volume firehouses are just full. If you're determining your self-worth around the calls you're going on, that is a limited mindset. And you're going to live there forever. Yeah. Get good at mastering, what is my physical fitness like? What's my meditation routine? How well do I mentor and take care of myself? How many trainings did I sign up to go to in case something bad happens? Am I the person who's willing to show up, right time, right place, right gear, with a good mindset, who's willing to spread that to the next group of guys? Because here's what happens. You got a young guy who doesn't have a choice. He just got off of probation and people didn't like it, whatever. He goes to a non-favorable home. Now all he hears is everybody talking shit about where he works and the job he's doing. And you expect that person to give 110% and want to get better, want to do extra training, want to work at a higher volume house? No, he thinks less of himself because you've all convinced him he is. Yeah. Because what? Because of chance? Right. Right? We got to stop talking negatively about ourselves and our communities. We're all doing the job, even if guys aren't. Encourage them to do better. Stop telling each other that you're doing the wrong thing. It's not helpful to anything, No,
man, that's important. I think we're our own worst enemies when it comes to that stuff. Absolutely. Right? We eat our own. We eat our young, and the cultures that we build can be toxic and problematic. And for us, the fire service is experiencing a bit of a recruitment and retention issue, right. and a lot of that's attributed to organizational cultures where they're eviscerating one another, and they don't have a value set that they can point to and say, this is who we are and what we stand for. Organizations have to make that a priority, and it's not, we run the most calls. It's we are here to provide a service to the community, right? And that has to be our focal point, because service to the community can be a lot more than just running, X number of fires a year. Right. It can be so much more than that. So when we talk about that identity, the identity crisis that people have, and their ability to feel their own self-worth, how does that contribute to the disintegration of their mental health, you think?
Yeah, man, so many different ways. I saw it with myself firsthand, of just putting myself in unnecessarily dangerous positions because I wanted to be seen doing it. It wasn't about at that time, I believe, I think I tricked myself to believe these things, but like just doing unnecessarily dumb things because I wanted people to think I was this guy, I'm willing to go anywhere and do anything sort of thing. So that's like the self version of it, what you bring on yourself. I don't know. I think it might have to do with, the last generation was always the hardest generation, right?
Oh yeah.
Our elders have to get better about talking about their service, have to get better about talking about the things that they loved and are ashamed of about how they operated. We have to have more open and honest dialogues. After actions reports aren't for leaders, they're for the entire team. What did we learn? How did we learn it? Why did we learn it? We have to start speaking truthfully and openly about like what our actual experiences are, and not what we think all these young guys want to hear. I don't need you to be interesting. I need you to be interested in the process. Be interested, not interesting. I can't remember the guy I took that from, but it really stuck with me, and I said, okay, I need to stop showing up trying to be the guy that I think everybody wants me to be, and be the quiet listener who everybody needs me to be. And if we get in that mindset, we can really start to change culture in a positive direction, I think.
Yeah. So talk to me about Sharp Performance a little bit. And what's your affiliation with them?
Yeah, so I was the first team member. Andrew Sackmar and Ben are the original co-founders of the company. Andrew Sackmar is an Army Green Beret. Ben worked in the world of trading and finance. He was working for Barclays, I think, Barclay or Bloomberg. He worked for both. I can't remember what his last job was. But they, during COVID, were getting their masters at Columbia. Andrew started talking about the kind of some of these concept things that he learned from the Army Special Forces, and Ben goes, well, I'm not a guy who would do therapy. I'm not a guy who would do any shit. He's like, but I'd love to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these unique things, and that kind of spawned the idea of like, wow, I bet you there's a bunch of guys like me who don't want to talk to therapists, who don't connect with the concepts of PTSD or mental health, but want to learn from real hardened professionals who have done hard jobs and have these unique perspectives. So that's kind of where it spawned. Another good friend of mine who was a SEAL was in that course, said, hey, you got to meet my friend Max. He's running a non-for-profit for mental health. He's in I was doing technology sales after I left the SEAL teams. That's a whole nother story of why I was working for Salesforce. No regrets there. And I heard their idea, and I was like, I'm kind of already doing this in a way through the non-for-profit, and yeah, I'm in. So let's do this. So me, Ben, and Andrew. There's a couple one-off folks involved in there too who are around for a while, but that was really the core group, and we just started going. Ben was raising the money. I was going up on stage and talking about the ideas and meeting with different police departments. Andrew was running the day-to-day operations. And we just kept going and going and going, and raised a bunch of money from Andreessen Horowitz or A16Z, big, huge, famous, venture capitalist out of and another one called Commonwealth, and A-Star, and we had money from a couple different directions, but our big money came from A16Z. And we built a product, right? We built a product, and we filled it full of the absolute best coaches that we can find who had subject matter expertise in sleep health and nervous system health and promotion and cultural development, and stole a lot of the folks and the mindsets that we took from SOCOM, and we're doing it for cops and firefighters. And today everything, people give themselves titles. It's ridiculous. I'm the head of customer engagement.
Yes.
I go around the United States and I talk to people about what we do, and I normally do it either on a stage or sometimes in an executive meeting with like a bigger fire department or a bigger law enforcement agency, and just spreading the gospel, man.
Nice. So that's cool, man. I appreciate the fact that you guys are feeding back into the system,
yeah.
Right? And it's we, the service we can provide to one another, and you have folks who have specialization, but also education, right? So they have the field experience, the ability to kind of speak the language, and they have that same kind of common operating picture, which makes them much more connected
right.
to their clients, if you will, right? They know their clients, they know the background much more right. definitively.
Without our coaches, we have nothing.
Yeah.
The single most important part of Sharp Performance are the coaches.
Yeah.
I could leave and we'd be fine. Ben or Andrew could leave and we'd be fine. This company does not survive without the best performance coaches in the United States who have lived these lives, these unique experiences, right? It's like you finish a life of service and you have two options. You can look back and say, fuck, I don't really have a lot of meaning from that. Like, I fought in these wars. I'm pretty sure they're about like oil and ego and precious minerals and resources and land grabbing. There's a bigger thing there, and I'm very aware of it. I'm not saying I'm not taking all the meaning out of what I do, but like, that's not what keeps me going. You know what I mean? The fact that I fought in these wars, but I came out with all these unique experiences and perspectives. And if I can share that with the next generation, right? If you're familiar with the Joseph Campbell's, right, the
Hero's Journey.
The Hero's Journey, right? Our podcast is called The Hero's Journey. There's a unique subset of people who have lived and had these experiences. They've crawled down into the depths of the valley, and they've seen the darkness, and they've been torn to pieces, and they've met, wisdom people and wisdom seekers along the way, and they've taken that, and then they emerge out the other end of the valley, and they go, I have a map of how to do this a better way.
Yeah.
I'm going to go share all of my worst and best experiences with this generation, and I'm going to teach you guys the right and wrong way to work. Right? It's the story of Batman. It's it's
Star Wars.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's the purpose. So if we can storytell in that way, we can move mountains. We can change generations.
No, that's great, man. So obviously, I'm assuming that you mentioned Milwaukee Fire Department.
Yeah.
And so obviously a fire department can sign up and then provide the service to their membership, right? Mm-hmm. And whatever that looks like, and the members have access to it, or what have you. So let's say I'm a firefighter in a small department. I don't have that kind of organizational support. Mm-hmm. Is that something? Is there still an avenue of approach for somebody like that?
There is, and what I tell people is, if your organization is telling you there's no money, we're going to tell them to look harder. There's always money. There's a way to get these services. We work with departments that are 10 people. We work with departments that are 3,000 people. So whether it's assistance to firefighter grants or anything through FEMA, sometimes we do regional things. There's a large fire department, and they have a bunch of volunteer fire departments around, and be like, hey, would you guys mind footing the bill for these 15 firefighters? They go, absolutely. We want them to have, we will work with you. We employ a federal lobbyist. She's on our payroll and is willing to go to work and find every little dime of money she possibly can, speak to your congressional leaders to speak on your behalf, get a special letter to throw on top of a grant to try to get you to the top of the pile. Yeah. We don't sell our service one-off, though. It's simply the financial modeling doesn't make sense. It'll be too expensive. This is much more of a concierge service, and we're paying out our coaches per session served, so we really have to get a larger body of people, even if that means 10 people or 5 people. We need all 5, because it just doesn't, 1 or 2 just doesn't it doesn't work with the business. We've done hundreds of hours of free coaching for people who just need it, who can't get there. Yeah. But our goal is always to get the whole department.
Well, we leadership need to take this seriously. Right. And so I'm talking to the chiefs in the room right now. Put your money where your mouth is. Right. We talk a lot about how much we care about our people. And, we talk about round trip tickets, right? We want the people to go home at the end of the day, right? At the end of the tour, they're going home and all that kind of stuff. Right. But sending them home broken, or on the road to broken, we're not doing anybody any help, right? I had a fire chief recently we're talking about. He was like, you need to be, advocating for pension reform and helping the union guys negotiate for better wages. And I'm like, okay, well, we also need to be helping negotiate the world here to help these people go home healthy. Right? What is most important is the men and women who work in our halls, right? Those are the most important people. Right. And so you can have all the best, I said this already, but you can have all the best equipment and all the best training, but if your people are broken, right, you have a real problem. So.
I think chiefs might be mad at me for saying this, but and this is my own, not even sharp performances. This is Max Bush's perspective of talking to all these fire departments and influential fire chiefs all over the world. The number one problem with firefighters today, in my opinion, is overtime. Overtime.
Say more about that.
The brain and body is not supposed to work that many days in a row in a high-stress environment, plain and simple. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of Superman you are. You are not supposed to be on alert at a firehouse. Some of these guys are staying on 10, 12 days in a row. They live in other states. Yeah. They fly in. They get their nut on 10 straight days in a row, and they go, well, my life's falling apart. It's like
predictable.
There's enough studies. Talking to this guy, James Gearing, who's becoming pretty famous in the firefighting health sleep world. 48 hours is still not healthy. We know that. being on shift for 48 hours is really, really bad for you, and it's going to have a detrimental effect on the amount of years you're going to live. Directly, it's going to have a detrimental effect on your heart health, on your nervous system, your autonomic system, how your parasympathetic response. It's going to spill over into your relationships. And if we could fix one thing, is we should pay firefighters what they're owed, which is, to me, everything, because they're there for us every single day in our worst moment. Whatever we're paying some politician or other person, like, match it, make it better. They deserve more. They're putting their lives on the line every day. Don't force these guys to kill themselves, working 10 days in a row so they can afford to live in the area, where they fight fires. I mean, look at a Northern California firefighter, right? You got these guys living in the Bay Area. Average cost of a home is $2.5 million. They're driving 3.5 hours away. They're spending 6 hours plus a week just getting to work to make the money, taking the extra over. It's just, we really got to take a close look at that from a leadership perspective and say, how are we serving our community and people? And if we weren't overworking people so they can afford to live, would more of them stay? Would more of them want to sign up? Would there be a healthy culture? I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's it. So let me ask you this as we kind of wrap up here. What are a couple things? So let's say there's a dudette sitting on the end of this podcast listening to this. What are some things that they can do today to improve their life?
Right. I would encourage people to do this, and people can. I sound like the hippie. Let's hear it. The hippie seal now, right? Because I've converted. But I want everybody to take a Post-it note out, and I want you to write on that Post-it note, number one, I want you to give yourself a break. This is a hard job, and it's going to have a detrimental effect in the way that you view yourself and your family and society. It's going to make you jaded, right? It's going to cause compassion fatigue, and all that stuff is totally normal, and you're normal. You're not broken. You don't need somebody to fix you. You're okay. It's the cost of admission of doing this profession. And then we're going to start doing the work. So give yourself a break. Number 2 on the list, I want you to, whoever your significant other is, or if it's your parents, if it's your girlfriend, it's your wife, it's your husband, whoever, I want you to walk into the house every day after work when they've been there and you haven't, and I want you to thank them for something that they do that you don't. Thank you so much for keeping the house clean. Thank you so much for getting the kids to school. Fill your heart with gratitude and let your wife feel that. The family needs to feel that you're gracious for what they're doing, even though you're off because you get sucked into it. I'm out here doing this thing and I'm interacting with these people and I saw all this awful shit and everybody should give me a break. It's like, no, you need to give them a break first. If you want gratitude, you have to give gratitude. And that's plain and simple. So thank your wife, thank your husband for something that they do that you don't. The third thing you're going to do is you're going to get down on eye level with your kids. And you're going to have a real conversation with them about the feelings that you have. Give them permission to be sad. Show them what it's like to grieve. When you're in a really bad mood, when you've seen something awful, don't go hide in your office and cry. Let them see you release emotion because you're going to teach them it's okay to release emotion. And for young boys, it's especially important. Stop telling your kids to stop crying. Let them see you be a real human being, and they will be real human beings. You want to break generational trauma, then you have to do the work. You got to show up and do the work. And I think if you can do those two things, if you can live with abundance and gratitude and you can bring that into your home, if you can be grateful for the people in your house, the body will follow the chemical trail that you create in your own mind. If you wake up and say, okay, today is going to be a great day. I'm so happy and I'm so lucky to be alive. I got a great wife. I got a great life. I got all these great kids. Even if you don't believe it in that moment, lie to yourself. I don't care. The body will start to follow and it will believe what you're saying. That's been the hardest lesson for me to learn through this whole thing. I went and did a retreat called Joe Dispenza and it changed my life. I'm a prolific meditator now and I talk to myself constantly and I don't think there's anything more important in keeping myself together. So I hope that helps somebody out there.
No, that's great, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for getting your hippie on.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well, man, I really appreciate the work that you're doing. and appreciate your willingness to share and talk about it and share your experiences and how the journey that you took to get where you are. I think it's the act of sharing that, I think, gives us all permission to be more authentic and to have that conversation and talk more about it. We gotta normalize that conversation.
Right.
We're all human beings, and we all deal with the similar things, and we have to be honest about what that is. You can't just freaking fight your way through everything and think it's going to be fine. You're going to take some lumps, and if we acknowledge that, we can work through it. And speaking of work, you said something right there at the very end there. You said you got to do the work. And that's such a, the question I had for my wife when she brought that up to me one day is, I'm like, what is the work? And she goes, that's what you need to find out.
Yeah.
You need to figure out what work you need to do. And so for all of us who are in this business, we are, typically hard chargers across all these different communities. And if you are a hard charger, then you need to take this part of your discipline seriously.
Right.
Because I think it's part of being a whole person, right? You can't forget the space between your ears is incredibly important. You got to take care of it.
Relate it to something in your life that's tangible, that you can touch. The work is this. You change the tires on your car so they don't pop and you crash. You change the oil so the motor doesn't seize up. You'll wash the car to keep the body clean so you don't get rust. You clean out the inside so it doesn't start to smell like shit. That's the work it takes to maintain a vehicle that's going to get you to your job and it's going to save your life if you ever get in a car accident. The body is the same way. Here's my work. I wake up in the morning and I meditate for 30 minutes, whether it's a walking or sitting meditation, because I know I start my day with negative thoughts. It's just where my brain goes, and I need to fix that negative mindset by putting in place something positive. I then go to the gym and I warm up for at least 35 minutes, because if I don't, I'm going to get hurt because I'm a broke old team guy with all these injuries, and so on and so on and so on. And by the end of the day, I do a nice long walk. I speak positively to myself. I write down things from the day that have affected me both positively and negatively. And I forgive myself for not being able to accomplish all of them. I give in my family time. Like, the work is what you do every single day to maintain homeostasis in your brain and body. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to accomplish everything. Let it go. Just be nice to yourself. And that's the work.
Right on. Well, Max, thanks, brother. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, that's all we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you can rate and review this podcast, that's fantastic. Get on over to iTunes and do that. It draws more people in. And the most important thing is the couple of takeaways from today. Toughness alone is not enough. You've got to sleep. You got to work on recovery, and your daily habits matter if you want to perform at a high level. Second, and lastly, real leadership starts with you. It starts at home and within yourself through gratitude, emotional honesty and integrity, and doing the hard work that you need to do every single day. So lean into that work, go on out there and get after it.